Welcome to Impact Leadership with Ferris-Ockwell. We chat with inspiring leaders who are doing business differently, shining a light on the change makers who are revolutionising the idea of leadership and showing us how and why profit, progress and purpose are all equally important.
So my first question is, could you just tell me a bit about who you are and why you do what you do?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Luckock. I call myself the social entrepreneur coach, but I'm actually like a business coach and business mentor for female social entrepreneurs who are looking for support to grow their business, essentially. I run a business called Share Impact, which is all about helping female social entrepreneurs grow their businesses, and particularly I help and coach women around money mindset, pricing, creating strategies in their business, and like what a sustainable income plan looks like for their social enterprise. And I did set this up following working in the social impact space for my whole career, but specifically setting up a social enterprise with my best friend Jen Bourne back in 2013 called Solutions for the Planet, and realizing that lots of social enterprises never really get up off the ground, and kind of beyond that first couple of years or beyond their first 100k, and never really have that sustainable business model. And I just felt that was a real weakness in the sector, and I really wanted to contribute to helping the social enterprise sector grow, but specifically with supporting women in the sector and helping them realize that it's okay, even as a not-for-profit, to generate the money they need in their business to get confident in sales in a way that feels really aligned to who they are and what they do, and create thriving businesses, because I think social enterprise is and should be the way that we run the vast majority of business, but that's not going to be possible if we can't create sustainable business models. So in a nutshell, that's what I do.
I think I've observed that tension as well between the idea of not-for-profit and actually needing to generate enough revenue to sustain and grow the business, and the idea that profit is a bad thing. Social enterprise sometimes needs to generate a profit. It can be a replacement for generic kind of capitalist style businesses, but the idea of generating profit for some people seems to feel like they're somehow cheating or they're not doing it properly. Is there a reason that you chose to focus on women, particularly within your coaching business?
I suppose just because I am a woman, it felt more natural. And also I think I experienced that for women in particular. I found that there's a lot of women interested in the sector because I think there's this real drive to want to align purpose and passion with career and having flexibility to do that. And I've seen a lot of women who are setting up businesses, whether they know about social entrepreneurship or not, still have a very much sort of purpose-based part to their business, either giving back in some way or donating time in some way. Like, I think for a lot of women that just comes part and parcel naturally. So I was really interested in that part of the sector, and interested in the fact that here in the UK, the stat is that 40% of social enterprise businesses are owned by women, which is significantly higher than the general sort of SME business population, which I think is about 17%. So I think it was interesting as well. It was sort of this growth market, really, that there's actually more women in the social enterprise sector as a proportion anyway, compared to businesses as normal businesses. So and also I think I recognise that for a lot of women, they really undervalue their own worth. And kind of a lot of women I work with are transitioning or have transitioned out of paid employment into self-employment, and they have this kind of barrier of thinking, oh well, I got paid that as my employed role, but so that's what I should get paid in this role, and never really seeing themselves as growing in experience, having grown in experience, contributing something different, valuing their own worth, and the fact that their worth may well change and grow over the future of their business career as well. And for me as well, I think more often than not, with most social enterprises and women owning those social enterprises, I see they are creating, or at least planning to create, incredible social and environmental change and transformation. And I believe we should be putting more value on that, opposed to other careers and jobs. And I think it's okay that we're paid well as owners and directors and even employees in social enterprises to recognise the valuable change that we're doing, And so yeah, I just wanted to be part of that conversation and support women specifically around that.
I absolutely wholeheartedly agree. I think, my history is in the charity sector primarily, and then, partly in the social enterprise sector, but primarily in the charity sector. And I saw over the course of my career this kind of movement towards undervaluing and underpaying charity employees. Was, largely because the charity sector moved towards a commissioning model and they had to be competitive. But then it just became the norm and it became expected. And what happened as a result of that is that we would lose the best people because they couldn't afford to stay in the sector, and they didn't feel that they were being supported to grow in their careers and to support their families, So I wholeheartedly agree. I did notice on your website your 3 key truths, one of which is that you need to be well paid for what you do. How do women respond to that generally when you kind of try and broach that subject through your coaching and training?
On the whole, they say, oh, well, I don't need to be paid a lot. And it always comes back to this. And I think it's what I do as a coach is then challenge, well, what is a lot? Because I think when we challenge it and when I explore that with clients, it's kind of like where they are now to where they think a well-paid CEO might get paid is a huge gulf, right? And actually, at the end of the day, I'm not saying you necessarily have to be at a point where you feel uncomfortable earning that amount. But, if there's 100 grand between where you are now and where you think you should be paid or that other CEOs are paid, then that's quite a big spectrum to make a decision about how much you might be paid. So I think it's kind of really, often it's quite tied up, right, in emotions and stories and beliefs that we often don't unpack. And so I think it's just really important to explore that. Yes, most of us feel we don't need a lot of wealth. We just need to be able to pay the bills, do the things we really want to be able to do with ease. So whether that's go on holiday or, maybe buy a few nice things every so often throughout the year, be able to treat our kids as and when, whatever. Okay, so that might not mean that you need 150k a year. Fine. But I think it's recognizing what could increase salary and actually recognition of your own self-worth and the contribution you're making to your business actually mean for you as a woman, as somebody in your house that brings home income, but also in society. And I think it's also just asking yourself, in the same way that you do in your business, if you make a lot more money than you actually need, you get to choose how you spend it. Doesn't mean you have to go and buy a really fast car or live in a really luxurious house that you don't really want to be in or go on holidays that you don't want to have. It means you just have more freedom, flexibility, and essentially power to decide how you invest that money. And I think actually we're not only denying our own desires as women leaders, we're actually also denying the opportunity to create the real change we want to create. Because imagine if we did have 100k extra a year. What change would we create with that if we chose not to spend it on ourselves or our families?
Yeah.
Why is that a bad thing?
Absolutely. I think agree. Great to hear somebody else talk so passionately about it and so articulately about it. Something else that I've observed in my experience is that if I, as a social entrepreneur, agree to be paid less, then I'm almost setting a precedent for other social entrepreneurs around me. So it makes it then much harder for other women leaders, particularly, but any social entrepreneur, to argue that their service is more valuable. Whereas in the private sector, that would be very much driven by, competition and the need for growth and the need to attract the best talent. How do you find social entrepreneurs make that transition from conceiving of a company and setting it up and doing the groundwork to then becoming a viable business and maybe employing staff or growing? How has that transition culturally been in your experience?
I think it's really hard for social entrepreneurs to go from we've set up, we're doing okay, they're running it on their own maybe, to then thinking about, oh, we're at capacity and I need to expand and I'm already working 40 or 50 hours a week or 70 even sometimes in lots of cases. It's time to bring on a team, but I need to kind of get the income right, but I think, and having been in that situation myself, in Solutions for the Planet in particular, taking on new staff is always, particularly if they're permanent staff or even, project-based staff is a real commitment to them, isn't it? Like, you're actually, it's not just about you feeling secure to do it, but it's also like, well, then we're making a commitment to other people. Like, there's always that shift from, oh, it's just a risk for us as the owners or the founders, whereas now we're shifting we're not shifting the risk onto them, but we're sharing the fact that actually we're actually employing somebody else, and that if we fail somehow or we have to close, we're having to let somebody else down. It's not just letting ourselves down. And I think that's a lot of the psychology of shifting from one person or two founders to, we actually need to start employing people and scale up here, that I find. And I think it's recognizing that, again, with lots of these things, if you really want to make that change that you want to create, we often need to just start building the capacity. And I don't know if this is the right way or not, but certainly I will share, our experience in Solutions for the Planet was the first time we started recruiting people. We always probably didn't have all the income in place to recruit that person for the first year, but we knew by building the capacity, we would free our time up to be able to go and do more business development. And I think it's just making that decision. And I think, in a sense, when you have to pay somebody's salary, you make it work. Like, you figure out a way to bring that money in. And I think that's a lot with things like when you start to run your business as a business, you take informed risks around spending and investments. And I think it's a really good motivator. My approach is, it was a really good motivator to then say, well, now I have to go and find this extra 20k, to fill that gap in order for us to be able to pay these salaries at the end of the year. And I think it just really focuses the mind and helps you kind of focus on the things that need to happen to build the business, rather than often we just get stuck in the day-to-day of operations, which needs to happen. But I think at some point, founders in particular have to take that step back and go, you know what, I'm a business owner. I need to manage on a strategic level and not be operational in a business. And I think that's also, secondly, one of the biggest things is, particularly for women, I think, and a lot of the clients I speak to, is letting go of their baby, really, like the thing they've created, and letting other people come in and share their wisdom, expertise, insights, amazing gifts, and take over from you and deliver that, so that you can kind of get on and do the strategic business leadership stuff, and they can run the operational side of things.
And you've been through that journey yourself, haven't you? So you've
Yes.
stepped back from Solutions for the Planet, but you're still in post as a director, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
So how have you found that handover of responsibility and trust to somebody else to run and to develop what you've created?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first handover was that thing of trusting staff to kind of do the great work that we were doing, and that comes down to really kind of deciding what it is that you uniquely do, and then deciding what types of people you want in your team and what it is that they can do, but also allowing them to bring their own ideas and stuff. I think that's really, really difficult, but you just have to trust in the process and trust that other people can do what you do as well, and also they can bring other ideas and insights, and you're not like the only person that can do this work. And then the second thing, stepping back from like an operational director in the business, working in it, to becoming a non-exec director was really difficult, particularly because me and my friend had set it up together, and it had kind of been our journey. And I suppose in one way I felt like I was letting her down. And then I think it's trusting. I mean, I had a complete trust in Jen, my friend. There was no doubt in my mind that she'd be able to be an amazing, and she has been an amazing CEO over the last 4 or 5 years. But I think it's also then letting go and stepping back and becoming, I think, finding that new role. So whereas I was in partnership with Jen as equal co-directors, it's then stepping back and being, I suppose, a director in an advisory capacity, and make suggestions but not hold onto those suggestions. Like, if she doesn't decide to do them as CEO, or the rest of the board say, that's probably not the best, or that's not the decision we're going to go with, it's not having like an emotional connection to it, and I think that's what I've learned about being a director, that you have to let go of control, because on our board there's 5 people, so I'm not the only one who can make those decisions. We have to make it collectively. But yeah, it's been a great journey, and I love being a director, and it's great to be part of it and still contribute. And I know Jen finds the board incredibly helpful as a CEO, and she really leans on us, asks us for challenge, but she's doing a great job with the team. It's amazing.
And having that dynamic between the CEO and the board is absolutely make or break for a social enterprise, and having a wrong board in place can be hugely damaging. So how do you as a board support the CEO to be her best self and to do the best that she can, while not overloading her and not challenging her confidence too much?
Yeah, that's really important. Like, you're not only there to challenge, are you? So I think the thing is at the start, and I think obviously I was in this process with Jen, is bringing on the right people. So people, and I say that in terms of, because I think you have to have people that are different and come from different backgrounds and provide different insights and expertise and life experiences as well. However, I think the key thing is having people on your board who get it, who get what you're about, get your vision, are aligned to it. So you're not in constant conversation or battle around just convincing them about what you're doing. So that's just accepted. But then it's kind of, how do we do this in the best way possible, is what the board generally is focused around. And so I think, first of all, making sure that you're getting the right people. But I think Jen's really set up the relationships really well, in that it's really important to Jen that she has relationships with all the board members individually. But then the chair, she always makes sure that she's having regular conversations with them in particular, and asks the chair almost to be like a mentor as well, to just support her in her role as CEO. And then the board is getting the balance between, so we have regular meetings obviously, but also between those meetings, Jen's always, when she needs it, emailing us, asking us, I think particularly for the decisions she's not convinced about or not sure about, she feels like she can just ask the board for our perspective, our insights and ideas, and always says, she really welcomes that between meetings. And then we set up the meetings in a way that there's always how do we call it, like an issue of the moment. It doesn't have to be a problem, but there's like a focus. So even that we do all the director stuff, the kind of the checking around the finances and the governance and the risks and all of that stuff, but then we always focus the meeting around a particular issue of the moment that Jen feels her and the team need some support with, or insights on, or a decision made about, and that seems to work really well for us. And I think as a board, I think the other thing is, and we've struggled this year, but we try to at least once a year, but actually happens probably at least twice a year, is come together and actually just be together as people rather than as board members. So at Christmas we always try and get together, but with the team as well, the staff team. And I don't know if this would work for every organisation, but it really works for us, and it's part of our values around relationships being a really key part of our organisational approach. And so we know each other to some extent as people as well, not just in the business sense. So I think that's really important as well. Sorry, I hope I've answered the question.
Absolutely. I find this subject of board dynamics fascinating, because it's key. It's such a nuanced area, and it relies on the CEO and the chair and everybody else on the board to be aware of those relational dynamics, and to make sure that they're nurtured, and that they're not treating the CEO and the staff team as just numbers. And that's something that within the social enterprise space is quite different to the private sector space, because it's not just about hitting targets and the bottom line. It's about nurturing that kind of creativity and that strength and that confidence in our leaders. So it's great to hear that you've got such a positive and supportive approach to that in your organisation. How do you bring the staff team on board? So how do you make sure that the staff team have a conduit or a relationship of sorts with the board of directors who are making decisions about the work that they're doing?
Yeah, and I think that comes back to how we have these kind of informal moments together as well as the strategic moments. So we often, I don't think we've had it this year, unless I've missed it online, but I don't think we've had it this year, but most years they have a team away day or a few days away and stuff, and we'll often try and be involved in that somehow. So that's more in the kind of formal sense. But then, like I said, we will always try and have points in the year where we also get together informally to have a meal together, have a drink together, you know, do an activity together. And I think that's then, you know, when I remember the first time this happened as a team, it is a bit like, you know, there are all those perceived notions of hierarchy and dynamics. But I think for me and Jen, our approach has always been that we don't want that real hierarchy. And so if we can't, you know, and I think it's just kind of like, if we can't just have a meal together and be relaxed and talk about family or life or, you know, fun, silly things, then we can't really build those relationships. And I think it's so key. So we have those points at, yeah, strategy days, or we have a big end of year program final in July. So that's often a good point where we're already together and we kind of celebrate afterwards, after that, and then at Christmas. But I think also the way Jen approaches and manages the team, she's really wants to be and is very open and transparent. So she's very open with the team when she's had a board meeting, talks through what we discussed, as long as it's, you know, appropriate, and you know, shares with them our ideas and thoughts and what's going on and the decisions that we've made. So I think, and I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure she does this every time, but I know she does it fairly frequently, is also when she's got a board meeting coming up, ask the team, because she has regular team meetings with her with her staff, you know, is there anything you want me to feed back to the board? Have you got questions? Is there, you know, so there's always this thing. And also we have contact details for all the staff. So, you know, when things are going on personally with staff, and Jen shares that with us, and where it's appropriate, we you know, we send letters, emails of support, and kind of, you know, check in with people. And I think that's possible because we're such a small team. So there's only, should know this, I should count in my head, I know everybody. So there's about 6 people in the team. We sometimes have interns as well that I don't often get to know, and then 4 board members. So, you know, we're still relatively small, so it's possible to do that. Yeah, so I think it's really important, and I think it comes from me and Jen and our approach and the way we wanted to lead the organisation, is that if we don't have, you know, me and Jen have been friends as well for our whole lives, so we had that bond, and we recognised when we started to expand the team that if we don't build those bonds with our staff and our directors, it's going to feel very imbalanced, because we've got such a strong relationship that actually it's important that we build those relationships with the other people in our team as well. Otherwise it's just going to feel like Jen and Kat's club and everybody else, whereas we never wanted it to be like that.
Yeah, so you're very very aware of the kind of cultural implications of relationships and how that can, I suppose people can perceive a sort of threat from that if there's too much intimacy between the CEO and the chair, or the CEO and certain other members of the organisation. It does create kind of paranoia and anxiety. How do you build this learning into the work that you do with your clients? So if you worked with a CEO or a founder, how would you support them to develop their relationship with their board and their staff team and overcome any hurdles?
It's interesting. It's not necessarily one of the things that comes up a lot. However, it does come up when, I think, particularly with clients and audience members that are just at that stage where they're ready to build out their board, and I think it comes back to that thing I said about, well, just have a real think about what's important to you, because I think sometimes we focus so much, and we're so, and I say this in the nicest way, but desperate. Oh, I really need an accountant. I need somebody that's got finance background, or I need somebody that's got HR and legal and like expertise. And like, I'll take anybody. I don't care. Like, I just need this expertise. And I think, yes, you need those skills, that knowledge, that sort of thing. But you, like I said before, you also need people that really get what you do, and so can apply their knowledge, skills and expertise in a way that supports you as the CEO, the founder, and supports your organisation in the way that you want to see it grow. And I think especially as the founder, that shift, I mean, you might do this obviously for lots of social enterprises as you set up, you know, create your small board of directors. And often that can be friends, you know, or people you've worked with already. And I think that's fine. But I think when you get to this kind of, who else do we really need on the board to help us? You know, where are our gaps in knowledge? What don't we know? Where could some strategic insight be helpful? It's at that point that, yeah, both this balance of what are the skills and knowledge, or for us, it's often like the networks that people have. It's really important. And do they get what we're about? Are they aligned to our vision? Do they believe in my vision for where I want to take the organisation? And will they support me in that, albeit in a way that's helping us do it in the best way possible?
Sure. Yeah. And that takes confidence, doesn't it? To have that, you know, to have the confidence to say no to the wrong person if somebody's interested, not the right fit.
Yeah.
So
and also, sorry, just have like a transition period as well. It doesn't have to be a like yes or no, like allow them to see if it's a good fit for them and allow you to see if they're a good fit for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So inviting them to meetings as an observer, and inviting them to meet the team and to see what they think. It's so important. I think we often feel rushed into these decisions, you know, partly for reasons relating to funding. Sometimes, you know, you have to have these people in post and they have to be unrelated, and but also partly because of confidence and because, you know, you trust that the people that you're bringing in as accountants or lawyers or HR professionals have those skills and expertise. So that's the most important thing, but it's often not the most important thing. That's stuff that you can learn or that you can buy in from elsewhere, but you can't buy in, you know, the right person with the right character.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me a bit more about your current offer. So I know you've got the different coaching programs and you have your membership, and you've just launched your Aligned Sales Mastermind, which I'm fascinated by. So give me a brief overview of what you're offering at the moment and where you're at with your own business. Yeah,
so I offer, I think, 4 things. So we'll talk through this. So yeah, I offer a 12-week coaching and mentoring. It's actually adapting, so it has really been very much mentoring, business mentoring and support over a 12-week period, but I'm actually working towards my coaching ICF accreditation and kind of really deepening my coaching experience and knowledge and skills so that I can really help clients as a coach and help them find their own. I really believe that everybody has their own answers within them, and so coaching is much more kind of helping people release and find those answers, explore them, rather than me saying I think you should do it this way, or recommend, you know, providing it. And we'll still do that, but I think it's getting the balance a bit more. Yeah, my Aligned Sales Mastermind is for those who maybe who are really struggling, I think, to make the sales they really want to see, aren't quite ready to work with me one-to-one. So it's a really quite really intense in the sense of the level of support you get in a group program as part of the mastermind to find your own aligned sales strategy. So I really believe that, well, one thing that was coming up a lot was that a lot of my clients were struggling with the idea that either didn't feel like a salesperson, they didn't want to be a salesperson, they didn't like the idea of sales and selling. So it's like I had to take time to unpack it, and I kind of went back to where I remembered being back in 2013-14, really realizing I had to sort of sell to corporates, and having never sold before because I'd only ever secured grant funding, and realizing, yeah, we have a perception of what a salesperson is or what selling requires. And I really wanted to help women in the social enterprise sector redefine that, that's aligned to their values, aligned to their ethics and the way that they want to build relationships with customers. So that's what it is basically helping them reevaluate how sales could be if they put their values first, which they often want to anyway, but they don't see, they've kind of, it's like we've all got this unwritten rule book about what sales has to be like, you know, pushy, manipulative, aggressive. I was like, it doesn't have to be like that. You can create sales in any way you want to. So that's what the Aligned Sales Mastermind is about. And then I have my Sell to Corporate course, which is based on my experience with Solutions for the Planet and having worked now with lots of different clients in helping them create their offer for corporates and setting a price that reflects where they want to go and kind of the value that they're contributing to corporates. And then figuring out, well, how do I reach corporates? How do I pitch it to them? So it's a full course around all that.
How long does that last for? Sorry.
That's 6 weeks. I was like, 6 weeks. Yeah, no, it is 6 weeks. I think I've been thinking about extending it recently, but yeah, so it's 6 weeks. It's a group program, so they get weekly group coaching with me as well, and then it's a course that they work through. And then the other thing is my membership, Thrive Society. That's actually going to go on pause for a couple of months, as I kind of rethink about how and what I want the membership to be, and I'll relaunch that in the summer. But yeah, that's my space for women who, I think for many more social enterprises who can't maybe work at that higher level, higher price level, but really want support, want a community to work towards where they want to get to. So that's what the membership is or will be about as we develop it.
Fantastic. So it sounds like you're being a massive help to a lot of our future leaders in the social enterprise space, and that kind of that nurturing and supportive approach, the coaching approach that you take is so important. My experience is that, like you said, often people have the answers within themselves. It's about bringing them out. It's about offering them the space and the opportunity to reflect outside of their day job, outside of all the pressures that come with leading organisations. So brilliant. Thank you very much. So is there anything else that you wanted to just plug or add or sell at this point?
No, that's been really, really helpful. Thank you. If anybody wants to find out more about what I do, they can look at my website, which is www.shareimpact.org, or come and connect with me on Instagram at Luckock Coaching. But yeah, that's great. Thanks very much, Fran.
Let's do. Thanks ever so much, Kat.
If you've enjoyed this episode of Impact Leadership, don't forget to subscribe and head to our website for more great content.